who have shown an interest, who have shown an interest in becoming a club coach. Tonight, we hope to give you a better understanding of your role in that position. When you become a club coach, you will stretch yourself and learn that you have leadership skills that you never knew you had. This is a very fulfilling role, and you will make a meaningful impact on a Toastmaster group. After introducing the panelists, they will share their personal journeys and provide a very valuable insight into the world of club coaching. Each panelist will provide us with an effective strategy for supporting struggling clubs. The panelists will have 3 to 5 minutes to reply to the questions. After the presentations, the panelists will have a question and answer session. You may put your questions in the chat or wait till the end to ask your questions. All right, introducing the panelists. First of all, Daisy, I had to lengthen her. She was a little shy about telling us some things. Daisy Way is a distinguished Toastmaster and a successful club coach. For 7 years with Toastmasters, she has grown from being a quiet speaker to a district leader. She had to overcome using English as a second language, but she used this to her advantage and now is assisting other ESL Toastmasters to accomplish what she has learned. As current District Club Growth Director for 1 more month, she inspires our members and brings energy to the district by building new clubs. Faye Andrusiak is a distinguished Toastmaster and a member of 3 clubs in Division B: Treasure Chest in Yorkton, Plains Toastmasters, and BLT Toastmasters in Regina. She is currently filling the VP membership role for Treasure Chest and is a club coach for Plains Toastmasters. Since joining Toastmasters, she has served in all club officer roles, served 2 terms as area governor, now called area director, 1 term as Division B governor, now called director, and 1 term as district contest chair. Faye is grateful for her experience in Toastmasters by sharing her enthusiasm and experiences of Toastmasters with new members and in her coaching role. It allows her to show her appreciation by giving back to the organization. She was a part of the team that achieved success for their club in the public relations campaign in 2020-21, winning the District 42 Public Relation Award for the year. Faye is a proud grandmother with 2 teenage granddaughters, and in her spare time, she enjoys traveling, swimming, cross-country skiing, curling in the winter months, gardening, cycling, camping, and during the summer months. Well, she is a very busy lady, and hopefully she has some time to fit in for Toastmasters. Distinguished Toastmaster Sheryl Portier joined her home club in, I'm hoping I'm going to say this right, Carillon Toastmasters in 2005. She is a member of 4 other clubs in District 64. CPA Comedy Club, A. Steinbach, Professional Development, and Visual virtual Toastmasters, plus one club in District 45. Speech, a fire advanced Toastmasters. She has held every club officer position except for Sergeant at Arms multiple times. In her Toastmaster life, Sheryl has entered many speech contests. She has won some, sponsored and mentored new clubs, and was the 2012 District 64 Toastmaster of the Year. Coordinated speechcraft programs, worked in conference committees, trained club and district officers, chaired the alignment committee, sat on the district leadership committee, and has been credentials chair for several years. Being the area director twice, division director twice. Boy, she's a go-getter, and was division director of the year for 2021. Club growth director, program quality director, and was the D64 district director when Pathways was first introduced. Yet, she has not coached a club until this year. So she has taken the challenge, and her coach that she is currently coaching is currently select distinguished. So great job. Now we're going to take turns here. First question, and who am I going to start with? Let's start with, Daisy. Daisy, yes. Everyone is wondering what tips you can give to become a winning coach for a struggling Toastmaster club. Tell us something about that worked well on your journey as a club coach, please.
Thank you, Cathy. I was surprised when my coached club become distinguished within a year. I thought it's a very challenging and difficult task. It probably takes 2 years. I probably prepared for 3 years to make the club distinguished. When I accepted the coach position, because they asked me, said, Daisy, do you want to coach this club? I said, oh, that club, I know that club. That club had a lot of membership. And because in the past, we have several times joined meeting with that club, I thought easy. But when I attend the meeting there, I feel challenged. What I did correct, I really appreciate, is my co-coach, Cindy Guan. She said she already been Toastmaster for a long time. She was thinking not to continue with her Toastmaster. I talked to her, I said, it's okay, I understand you're busy, but I'm going to do the work. And you just on the side, I just add your name as my co-coach. You do not need to do anything. And so far, my trick to convince her works, so she become my co-coach. And of course, at the first several months when I work with the club, I receive a lot of resistance. We were arm wrestling for several months, and there are many times I was thinking quit why I'm working here. And Cindy encouraged me, said, maybe we just wait for 1 more month. Just give it a try for 1 more month. Just give it 1 more try. So she keeps saying that. I said, okay, sure, try 1 more month. Okay, just to try 1 more time. And then eventually we went through all the obstacles. The club started to work with me collaboratively, and we started to make a progress. I know there's some people said, hey, we have a lot of club, need a club coach. We're really short of a club coach, and why we assign 2 coaches to 1 club. I disagree with it. I thought a two-person works perfect and we can accommodate each other. Sometime I have a business, I couldn't attend the club meeting, my co-coach will be there. So it's always have one coach there with the club. So club won't feel left out for every meeting. And I thought the co-coach works perfect. Another thing is I want to mention is teamwork. At the beginning, the club officer doesn't collaborate and they're like, why we should listen to you and why. And so eventually I did follow all the instruction from this committee. I ran the moment of truth and ran the club success plan and talked to each individual. Eventually I convinced them, said, yes, we're going to work as a one team and together make the club better. Yeah, so I said, co-coach is a great option and also work with the club officer as a one team. Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you so much for that, Daisy. Now we are going to ask Sheryl. Sheryl, what worked well for you in starting with the club coach?
Thank you, Cathy. I understand I'm the only one in this panel that is working with a corporate club. If you have ever visited a corporate club or been in a corporate club, you understand that work trumps everything else. Because it's a workplace-based club, which is what we're trying to call it now here in District 64, it has different challenges than a community club. And yet, you know, there's still all Toastmasters and there are still things we can transfer to community clubs. Due to some confusion about paperwork, and I can't even remember what happened, it took a while for me to actually be appointed the club coach. It turned out this was of great benefit. As soon as I was appointed the club coach or asked to be the club coach, I started attending meetings. Got to know the club very well this way. It was about 6 or 8 meetings that I attended before I was actually appointed. And by the time we had finished that period of time, the club and I were both in total agreement that we could work together. I was very fortunate to have a club president that was keen for this. She really wanted a club coach. She brought along the rest of the officers in her club to see that it would be a great thing. And she knew me a little bit from the past because, as you heard from my introduction, I've been around a bit. She was actually quite thrilled to get somebody she knew. We sat through many meetings and then the president and I had little chats afterwards, sometimes face-to-face, sometimes through email, about what happened at that meeting, and I got her perspective on it and I shared mine. I made some speeches during that time in the club about what the club coach was expected to do and what the club was expected to do. So everyone who was there for those meetings, which wasn't always everyone, heard the expectation on both parts, all before I was officially appointed the club coach. Because this was taking so long, the club actually took initiative. I have to say, they were very good. The VPE did a Moments of Truth. They came up with the club success plan, and they were able to share both the results of Moments of Truth and the success plan with me before I was even appointed. We had a plan. It was out there in writing, and they all had agreed to it already. It also helped very much that I'd been an area director for 4 corporate clubs the last time I was an area director, which was just when COVID hit. I got to see how a corporate club worked with and without in-person meetings. And let me tell you, some corporate clubs, that was the end of it. They've never come back. Some of those clubs I worked with. Others succeeded very well. So I was able to take the successful stories from those corporate clubs and share them with my current club that I'm coaching. they liked some of the ideas, they picked them up, and they're still working on a few of them in order to get more members. But I have more about that in other questions. So my recommendation is that before there's a commitment in writing on both parties, the club officers and the coach, really get to know each other very well. Then you have an idea where you're going to go. Madam Chair.
That is excellent, Cheryl, and you are so right. Actually, if you have not chosen a club to coach, sometimes it's a good idea to check several clubs out as well. You could travel around and visit some of the struggling clubs and just see where you might fit in. And that would be perfect. All right, and now we'll hear from Faye and see what worked well with her.
Thank you, Cathy. I, first of all, want to say that I was appointed club coach of the club under the old club coach program. So that enabled me to become a member of the club, which was necessary in order for the club to avoid becoming or going into suspension. That being said, I still, as a member of the club, I did not join the executive, and I was there mainly as a participant in the club to increase their numbers so that they could have successful club meetings. And I was very careful when I did that to allow people to sign up for roles ahead of time, and anything that wasn't filled on the agenda, that was to fill any vacant positions. The other thing that was that I attended the meetings regularly, and their executive meetings. I attended their executive meetings and was there to provide guidance to the club. It's important to show empathy to the club, even though the club is weakened and because of the low membership, it doesn't mean that they're weak. When a club is struggling, it's difficult for them to see the strengths that they still have, right? As a club coach, it's up to me to help them recognize that their strength, they do have strengths along with their weaknesses. And the members were genuinely interested in saving their club. They wanted to be successful. So that was good. They really they absorbed all of the guidance that I could give them, and they anything that I encouraged them to do, they did. So that was really good. And they were all willing, all very receptive, and all willing to solve the club's problems so that they could be successful. But that pretty much is, in a nutshell, what I was there. One thing was to provide feedback. When they started hybrid, there were a few things, glitches that they needed to work out, and I was there to help them do that. One example is that their timing lights were only visible to people who were in the meeting room. So, and I guess because they were all in the meeting room, they didn't realize that their timing lights weren't visible to the, or could have been more visible, let's put it that way, to the people who were online. So things like that, I really helped them with to make their clubs more successful for when guests arrived. Madam Toastmaster Cathy.
Thank you, Faye. When people start on hybrid, it is difficult to see what the differences are. And it's good that you were able to do that. How is the club doing now, Faye?
The club has been successful. They have increased their membership they will qualify for distinguished club status this year.
Wonderful.
So
Great
they've done
to
well.
hear. All right. Well, it's It's not all sunshine and roses. We do have some challenges. So tell us about one of the challenges that you had and whether you overcome it and how you overcame it or how you think you might overcome it. We'll start with Sheryl this time.
Thank you, Cathy. As I alluded to before, work is a problem with a corporate club. But you know, I'm in a couple of other clubs where people say, oh, I have to work late, I won't make the meeting. It can indeed be a problem. I'm not the person who's going to say, no, you must put Toastmasters before your job, because that would be crazy. I know it would. What it was struck me as interesting, though, in this workplace-based club was if their boss sent them to one kind of training, you know, one of those all day, you're gone all day, you get it all smashed into you all day, and then it's over, that is okay. But when it's Toastmasters, it's 1 hour a week at lunch hour. We want you to work at lunch hour. It's not okay that you want to go to that Toastmasters training. And because it's ongoing and it's called a club, it's a problem. If you call it training, if you can rename it somehow, that might help. And that is what the club and I are working on. I have to say, mostly it's the club. I'm a retired teacher. I don't work at this corporation. In fact, it's sometimes quite difficult because they can't even put me on their Teams group, right, to see what's going on. And I know from personal experience, when I was a working person, one-off training, those one-day things, is nowhere near as effective as Toastmasters. Fortunately, the current club growth director is a member of the club I am coaching. He has been picking up ideas through district leader training, and he listened when I shared the experience of those other corporate clubs I worked with as an area director. Between him and his new promotion to a higher level in management, the plan the club has with the president, the VPE, and this club growth director who happens to be the treasurer is to get Toastmasters listed in corporate training and to make it become so important that it's taken out of the lunch hour and put, say, at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon as something that the members of the club have to go to. It is their professional development. This is what happened in a club I was an area director for. They had permission from management, indeed encouragement from management. And the club meets at 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Nobody misses their lunch hour, and it's on paid time because they're calling it professional development or training. They get it approved through their manager, and their manager has to agree to let them go to every meeting. But with that model in mind, the club I'm coaching is working towards it. Fortunately, they found a kindred spirit in upper management who is a former Toastmaster. They had to do a little bit of asking around, but they did find one. So she is also working on this. It might take until September to get this in place so that they can take it out of the lunch hour and make it important, but they are anxiously looking forward to that. And they think that it will help retain all the new members they've acquired in the last little bit. So it's a great solution for a corporate club. If any of you have any contact with them, just talk to us. We can give you the language that might work with those managers. Back to you, Cathy.
Well, thank you. I agree totally. I have heard a lot of people when they're talking about speeches, no. Presentations, yes. Then you get some action. All right, Faye, difficulties that you had, and did you solve it or not?
In some ways we solved it, and in other ways that we didn't. One of the big issues was people who become members and then don't attend meetings is the most frustrating thing, I think, for a club. It's discouraging for the members, and it kind of leaves the club in a precarious situation because they count on people to be at the meetings and then they don't show up. So that is a big issue. And I have to say, not only in the club that I was coaching, but in other clubs as well. Another thing is being able to encourage people to sign up for agenda roles, to fill the agenda. Another frustrating thing that really was hard to work with. You know, the club president was so good at sending the agenda out a week ahead of time, and it was always the day of the meeting and right up to the time of the meeting started that we were still trying to fill agenda roles, which can be a frustrating thing. So that we're working on it. It's not something that is solved overnight, but we just have to get members into the habit of going onto the agenda and making that their focus is to fill that agenda for each meeting so that when they do have guests arrive, they do look very professional. The other thing is that I live 2 hours away from the club, so I'm only able to attend online. So if they have special events or if they have open houses, for example, I'm not available in person to attend that event. So those are just some of the things that I found challenging and things that we are still working on to hopefully move forward. Thank you, Cathy.
I think that's something that a lot of clubs have difficulty with. And if somebody has a magic solution, let us know because we'd be happy to hear about it. All right, Daisy, what was your challenge with the club that you coached and how did you overcome it?
The club I coached, I don't have a club president. When I see the new club coach program, I was so happy because for the new club coach program, the coach and one of the club officer have to take the club coach training, and then they both sign agreement. The traditional legacy program, coach program, don't have this process. So just for the agreement, it takes me at least 4 months to reach the agreement. So I started coaching by attending their meeting first. And the reason the club requests the coach is the previous club president asked a coach, and then he didn't renew his membership. So he assigned a new coach, a new president for the club. When I attend the meeting, I was general evaluator. I provide feedback for the meeting, and you can definitely feel the club president disagree with me. And everybody can feel about that. So after 3 months, he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to continue in this club. I quit. So we don't have a club president. When I start with the club, they have 8 registered club members, but actually only 5 of them show up in the meeting. So at the end, only 3 of them left. It's kind of a club coach. You're supposed to build the club, but you have the club start from 8 and then go to 3 members. What I did, I talked to those 3 members. They are kind of new. They're in Toastmaster less than a year. I talked to each of them individually, convinced one of them become club president. I said, you have my full support. Don't worry about that. I know you're new to Toastmaster. That's why we're in Toastmaster, to learn. I'm going to support you, don't worry. And I convinced another guy become treasurer. And then another girl, she said she can cover as a VP education, even she hasn't started for her icebreaker speech. But so far it works. After that, 3 of them had an agreement with me and my co-coach, and we decided to work together, make change to the club. I think the internal motivation from the club is very important. If they have resistance, don't want to change, doesn't matter how good the club coach is, you cannot change the club. I told them, I said, it's what you are doing already verified. It's the fail because your approach doesn't work. That's why your club has less and less members. The president said, if we all follow your instruction, the club is not the same club anymore. I said, that's exactly what I want to do. I want a new club. We want to build a new club. So the challenge, once we overcome, everything goes smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. You had a major problem. And the thing is, you actually had to build a new club because you had 3 relatively new people. You didn't have the old guard, as they say. That's the way it goes. Faye, membership is an ongoing problem. A lot of clubs are looking for ways to increase membership. Tell us one way that you found to increase membership and thus set the club up for success. Faye.
Thank you, Cathy. Yes, although hybrid meetings are the thing for Toastmasters right now, and it's wonderful that we do have hybrid meetings. When my club became successful, they had an open house that was not hybrid. They welcomed people into their meeting room, and that's when they started to become successful. However, they had done a lot of public relations. They had put up posters. They had gone onto social media and promoted the club through social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever was out there that they could use. Another thing is that if you go into the community events section or find community events on social media, you'll find pages for the local community events, plus perhaps outlying communities as well, where you can post information about your club. And you never know who you're going to get to come to your club. So making sure that you're keeping that public relations promotion going and keeping your club front and center on the social media pages. And the other thing is to contact former members and ask them to come back. And that was successful for my club as well. So those are some of the things that we did, or that they did, I should say, in order to increase their membership, in order to be a distinguished club. Madam Toastmaster Cathy.
Thank you, Faye. Yes, social media doesn't work for every club, but you found the niche and it worked. So that was great. Daisy, what worked for your club? How did you increase membership?
I didn't ask my existing club member to invite a guest to our club meeting. What I did, I said we have to have an energized meeting before we invite anyone to join our meeting, because nobody wants to join a loser's team. When you have a short membership, only 5 or 6 people in the meeting, everybody had no energy and everybody showed the burnout, and who want to join you? Nobody want to join you. So I started club coach in July until November, we all had agreement that to do something change. We started from the meeting format first. I said we need at least 10 person in one meeting in order to show the energy around of us. But where we got the 10 attendee to the meeting, I utilized my network and my public speaking skills to invite whoever I know or whoever know me, say, hey, do you have time? Can you stop by our meeting for one time? And until I have 10 attendee for the meeting, and then I said, okay, tomorrow we have 10 attendee, and then you can invite your friend or coworker. So that's the first thing we did. We're not rushed to invite any guest until we have energized the meeting. Second thing is, where are we going to fund the guest? What I learned from the insurance sales, they said, don't destroy the hot water around you. You try to start working on the water outside the hot water. So who is the hot water? Your coworker, your close friend, your family member. Because those people, if they do not help you spread the word about Toastmaster, and you're dead because you don't have any supporter around you. If you start from the outside the hot water, from those warm water, and you have way more target audience there, and you can promote your Toastmaster from there. So that's what we did. From February, we have energized the meeting every time, and it just miracle happen. Every week we have guests drop by, and they decide to join. Just the one stop checked out. And what happened? I asked them. I said, "Why you only attend our meeting once and you decide to join? How do you find our meeting link?" So they said that they Googled, they searched on website. A few of them are friend or coworker, and I think it's like half and half. Another half they found us from our club website or Google or Meet app somewhere. So they stop in our club and they see the energy going on there. So they decide to join. Like I said, from February, every week we have at least one member join. So by end of June, we have 23 members. Yeah, originally I planned that's 2 years ago, but that's why I said that the energized meeting is the key. That's the part you attract guests that become member.
Daisy, you had told me that you didn't use Speechcraft originally as to get new members, but you do use it to maintain. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yes, thank you for asking this question. When I was a club coach to try to rebuild the club, we don't have the ability to run a Speechcraft. We only had 3 or 5 members. They're kind of all relatively new. They even didn't finish their own level 1. So we don't have ability to run the Speechcraft unless I run the Speechcraft. But I want the motivation start from the club, not from me. I want the club member working on it. That's why we didn't run the Speechcraft. After we have 23 members, that doesn't mean we're safe forever. As you know, probably 1/3 of the member going to drop every time we renew the membership, because everybody had something come up for change, life, work, schedule, priority change. And so that's reasonable. Somebody just drop from the membership. And so hiring a new member, that's the ongoing task for every club. And so after we have 23 members for the club, the next renew time, we had a reduced number of membership, and we decided to run a Speechcraft. At those time, the online registration for Speechcraft, we're not familiar. And so we said, okay, we just follow the format of Speechcraft, and we called it the workshop, but the training material are exactly same as a Speechcraft. So where we find the people to attend the Speechcraft, like Faye mentioned, we need to find the target audience where they are. They are not family friend around me. They are in the community event. They are someone have no idea about the Toastmaster. So I have been attend like a community event, join some association. Also, I joined some new immigration seminar, workshop, all those things. And the same thing for our club member. And from there, we broadcast for Toastmaster. We did attract more member from there. So second year, we maintained the distinguish.
Thank you, Daisy. Now, Sheryl, finding membership in a corporate club, that's a whole different kettle of fish. So tell us, how did you increase your membership?
I had very little to do with it. I'm going to be blunt about this and say, give all the credit to the club, especially the president. Don't tell anybody, but we're nominating her for an award. This is how good she is. She had noticed on Facebook a successful community club that kept posting, we did this, and this is what the results were. So she was intrigued by it. All I had to do was find the phone number for the president of that community club. And Anne took it upon herself to call that president and find out how they had set up this amazing program that continued over the last 2 years to replace and increase the membership of that club. Because as Daisy said, some drop off, you have to constantly be rebuilding. What they do, this community club, and it's completely online now, are open houses. We had a speaker in District 64 who recommended we not call it that. But the president of this club I'm coaching said, no, it will work in our corporation, promise. We have now arranged once a month, I think it's the first Tuesday of the month, to have an outside speaker come in. They may be a Toastmaster, they may be somebody from the community that one of the members finds interesting. With the help of that Toastmaster, I'm former Toastmaster in upper management, the club has inserted this information into the weekly corporate news under the training section. So they are listed well ahead of time with the dates and the speaker. The plan is to have it 3 months ahead. So if 4 times a year, it'll be 3 months ahead. They keep updating it. This has worked so well that we have increased the club membership with 12 members, all of whom found the club through these open houses, enjoyed it, and like you say, Daisy, it energized the meetings for the members. I was the test subject. I was the guest speaker for the first open house. A couple of people came. Then we had another guest speaker. A few more people came and joined the club. So it has been quite a successful strategy. It looks like maybe you might call it a lunch and learn. So people can eat their lunch. We don't care. They're hybrid. If they want to turn off their screens, they can. Or if they're in the boardroom at the business, they can turn off that screen and eat their lunch. People seem to really like it. I think one of our most successful was a Toastmaster. He's quite an advanced Toastmaster who is an immigrant from Vietnam. Many of the employees in this corporation, because it's a provincially run corporation, are also immigrants and highly educated and wanting to learn English. That's what he talked about, was how Toastmasters helped him succeed in both his regular paying job plus a side entrepreneurial venture he has. and he credited it all to Toastmasters. And he's an entertaining speaker, you know, a good sense of humor. People could definitely relate to him. So that was successful given the culture of the corporation and the club. They look forward to keep on doing this because not only do our guests enjoy it, the members enjoy it. Whoa, we get to listen to somebody else who isn't someone we hear all the time. And the second thing they've done is to really encourage to retain these members, is get those new members doing their icebreakers right away. Before they were all nicey nice about, oh, whenever you're ready. It's no, you can do it next week, right? So they're not demanding it, but they're definitely encouraging these icebreakers to get them rolling. I have found that members will come to hear an icebreaker too. They really like it. We still have that work pulling people away, including like the last minute, Faye, you know, oh, I can't do that speech today. My boss says I have to do this. Or, oh, my kid's sick, I got to go home. Things happen, right? But I think these regularly planned, well advertised ahead of time, and within the corporation, open houses were a great idea for this particular club. And I do hope they continue them. Well, maybe forever. Back to you, Cathy.
Thank you so much for that, Sheryl. Yes, open houses, if you can find some great speakers, pull them in, because a lot of people like to come and listen. I know we've done open houses on interviewing for a job. There's lots of excellent things that you can do. Now, we've heard from our three participants. Does anyone have any questions? Any of the few people that are out there?
Cathy,
Any-
I actually have a question, and it's
Sure.
directed to Faye, but anybody else that has ideas. Faye, how did you start encouraging people to sign up for speaking roles, Toastmaster, GE?
No, Marg, I think once we started, excuse me, once we started increasing our membership, people became more energized. And that's when we noticed a considerable difference in people signing up for roles, in people doing presentations, speeches, and that kind of thing. So I can't say that I think that that's what solved the problem. Now we still have things to do to get people to continue doing that, but that to me is what energized the club and got people participating in the club.
Thanks, Faye.
Anyone else like to comment about that?
We had this similar problem, and of course, and as if you say, Faye, when the club becomes energized, it's more likely people will show up. Well, unless their boss tells them they can't or their kid is sick. But the club executive all sat together and they made the decision to assign roles to members on a rotating basis. There's still that last minute thing where that club growth director or myself as the coach or the very involved area director or one of the other club officers could step in at the last minute and fill a role. But we found that most people go, oh, there's my name and it's in there on Teams, plus they get an email about it at their work email. It's more likely that they will show up. They don't have to decide what role, it's given to them. My hope is they can have people fighting for roles at some point. You know, that doing, oh, no, I really want to be Toastmaster. It's a faint hope, I know. You're all going to be laughing at that, but we really hope that they start to see the value of doing the roles. And when one of the more experienced Toastmasters is in the role, we explain the value to them and try to put it in workplace language, which was a huge learning curve for me because it's a lot different being a public school teacher than it is a worker in a corporation. So that's what we did. Is we just said, okay, this is your role this week. You haven't done humor. Today you're going to try humor, or this day you're going to try humor. So, and they can see it a couple of weeks ahead. It's not a shocker.
Lorna, did you have any questions? I know you came in a little later.
No, just listening, just listening.
Okay, okay. Doreen? Any questions?
I have no questions, but I really enjoyed what I heard tonight. I'd like to thank all the panelists for being here and thanks for the invitation to come. I enjoyed it. I'm looking
Great.
forward to doing more club coaching.
Well, I want to add something like how do I assign the meeting role? We don't have enough people to assign meeting role. We only have 3 or 5 attendees from the club every meeting. So we definitely have everyone take a meeting role for sure. And at the end of every meeting, I ask them which role you're going to take for next week. And then we had a confirmation. Someone said, oh, next week I have a training at the same time, and that's okay, you're not here. But all the vacant meeting role, I promised them, I said, I'm going to find someone to fill in that meeting role. So that's, as a club coach, I do my part for them, but I want the club member doing their part. So that's what I did.
All right. Anyone else for the moment? We're a small but mighty group, but we've had a good session.
So when you're talking, I have questions, so I'll ask them. When you're talking about corporate language, does it vary corporation to corporation, or is it just like a business language that most businesses commonly use?
I'm going to assume that's directed at me. It does vary corporation to corporation, but they do have an understanding. For example, the club I was an area director for that's still quite successful was HR, human resources. I'm sure you've all heard of that. And someone with a human resources training runs that session and does that and is involved with all corporate training, as well as paying people, the whole thing that involves dealing with the employees. And in the club I'm coaching, that person is called a training manager. So when we were talking about club officer roles just recently, because of course it is that time and we're behind thanks to open houses and various things, the club hasn't picked their new executive yet. We were describing things like the vice president of membership is like a human resources professional. And while it's Manitoba Public Insurance I'm with, while MPI calls it training management, the others they all understood human resources. So you can use that sort of common language. It becomes a little more challenging with things like treasurer. They go treasurer. Well, we have accountants for that. Okay, how about we call it financial management? And your job is to make sure those accountants have actually paid the Toastmaster dues, because in this particular club, it goes through the organization. The corporation pays the dues. Another one I was at, members had to pay their dues and then get reimbursed. That was a challenge. It didn't work very well. Or then there was the group that insisted on using wiring the dues to Toastmaster. Don't you have corporate credit cards? No, we only send wires. So you have to really dig into how all these things are done, suggest better ways possibly, and hopefully it works. But paying dues, well, it's not bad in the club I'm working with, so it's a little bit easier. Yeah, the language, if you've ever seen Pat Johnson's book, she has a book about corporate clubs, starting corporate clubs and maintaining them. I've leaned quite heavily on that lovely little document. It's available from Toastmasters and it's quite inexpensive. And she's a Canadian. Just put that.
Thanks, Sheryl, for that great information.
All
I have a
right.
question. I have a question for Sheryl. I belong to a corporate club in Regina, and it's the city of Regina, and we have city sponsors, and they're very good. Like, not all of our managers will pay the dues, just, it's out there. They can pay the fees out of their training fee, but it's not mandatory. And we get a free facility, so we don't have to pay for a room, and we don't have to pay for, you know, the setup, the camera, and all that. We are trying to have it as training instead of it's a club. How is and for professional development, how is the club that you're at? How are they going about that? Because I really like that idea about it being as professional development. And we do meet at 12. However, our city clerk, he's our city sponsor for this. He has said, consider this a meeting, and we're not taking away your lunch hour. You can take it before or you can take it after. That's how they're getting around that one. But putting as professional development, how is the club you're coaching? How are they doing that?
Well, when they're sitting down into, I'm only getting the secondhand information, of course, because I don't work there. When they're sitting down to talk to the training manager, the first thing they wanted to do was get these open houses set up for the year and get them in that particular training section of this weekly newsletter that apparently people are supposed to read. But you know, honestly, how many people really do? You know what I mean? So what they've tried to use is the language of what Pathways offers us, competencies. They have looked at, and they continue to look at, what is required for each section. And this is one of the reasons it's taking a long time, to look at each section of the corporation, see what competencies managers want, and then match them up to the competencies in Pathways. Well, you're looking for someone who will be one of your assistant manager. Look at this particular thing we have. These are the competencies in this choice a person could take as their own training path. So, you know, management development, all of those wonderful things. So it's an ongoing discussion and trying to look at the whole corporation. And you can imagine, since it's provincial, there are people in offices all over the province. So it is going to take some time, but I think they have the right idea to put it in that training section and say, managers, are you looking for these competencies in your employees? Then send them to Toastmasters. Let them attend the meetings. Now,
Yeah,
each manager doesn't have to decide. It comes from the top that it gets paid for. So that's just how it was set up about 10 or 15 years ago. The club's about that old.
Yeah, I love that idea about it being training over a number of, you know, like it's not a one-time thing, it's ongoing. Because I find when you go to a one-time training, it's a one-day deal. You can't absorb all that information. And some managers, they want you to absorb everything. I sent you to a training, a one-day training. You should know everything. You should be doing what they say, but you just can't. I find myself, I can't absorb it. So that's one thing I like about Toastmasters. It's ongoing training.
I think it's a difference between lecturing and training, honestly. They think you're being sent to training, but most of the time it's not.
Yeah.
Right? Toastmasters really does training when you're in the club. I won't say the same thing for club officer training, because there's a reason you have to go every year, even if you're the treasurer every year, because you can't absorb it in one sitting. But at least as Toastmasters, we have that option that you go, okay, I didn't quite get it all, but I can go again halfway through the year, and then I can go again next year if I want to do the same role or learn more about it. There isn't that option in any professional development that I've seen, including when I was a teacher. Oh, sure, we're all going to learn this new way of assessing kids in one day. You know, when I've been doing something else for 20 years. So it needs to come out in the literature. And that's why I say that this is going to take a while for them to say, what competencies do you need in this part, in this corporation, and where are they in Toastmasters? You might try that approach. Look for those competencies. They're wonderful things.
Sounds like Debbie, you might have to get in touch with Sheryl and ask some more questions.
I think so, yes.
Okay, well, thank you for all those great questions. Just wanted to, for my final remarks, it doesn't matter if you have only been a Toastmaster for a few years, or if you're on your way to a DTM. We need your help to help the struggling clubs. This doesn't mean you have to take over the club. It doesn't mean you have to be at every meeting. It does mean that you have to empower the club that you are coaching with the tools to make it happen. We have a brand new program in place, and we will be watching to see what we can do to help you. There are some requirements on becoming a club coach, and we would be happy to review those with you. We also will be continuing with Club Coach Mastermind on a monthly basis in the new calendar year. And you are welcome to join us, whether you're a club coach or not. I want to thank the 3 participants tonight for their insight and for sharing their journey. Thank you so much for attending, and thank you so much for the people who came to listen. And Daisy will be putting it on the site. Right, Daisy? All right, so it'll be on, which site will it be on? The D42 site? I can't hear you.
It's going to be on our Zoom 6 cloud, and I will distribute the link to everyone.
Okay, sounds great. So thanks very much.